As the 1960s dawned, Mao Zedong held the blood of millions upon his hands. All respect held towards him by the world had been eliminated. In order to restore the power he had once held, Mao Zedong initiated the Cultural Revolution, an uprising of fanatic Maoists that dissolved into violence, bringing the Chinese economy to a standstill. During the late 1970s, in reaction to the Maoism that burdened the country, the Communist Party of China enacted radical economic reforms, reversing the grip of Maoism and ushering in an age of prosperity. In 1912, the Xinhai Revolution had swept China, destroying the imperial system and establishing the Republic of China. The Republic was divided between the political factions of the Nationalists and the Communists. Tensions escalated. On April 12, 1927, Chiang Kai-shek, leader of the Nationalists, declared that communism was economically and socially disruptive. Hundreds of communists were executed, beginning the Chinese Civil War. The conflict began as skirmishes, and after the end of World War II, grew into brutal, full-scale war. Revolution was not a dinner party. The Communists achieved victory, and the Nationalists fled to Taiwan. Mao Zedong declared the People's Republic of China on October 1, 1949, inserting a new communist power and a threat to the West into the Cold War. Now the leader of an agrarian nation, Mao sought to industrialize China, emphasizing modernization and collectivization. In 1953, he launched the first five-year plan, which organized the rural populace into communes and established basic industry. Largely successful, Mao envisioned an even more ambitious economic initiative. Under the second five-year plan, which became known as the Great Leap Forward, Mao aimed to transform China into a modern nation and mandated communal living and a jumpstart of the Chinese steel industry. In order to multiply steel production, Mao theorized each citizen building small backyard furnaces, each contributing to steel production. The population obeyed, leading to disaster. The steel itself was useless pig iron, but in order to fill huge production quotas, commune workers were forced to scour the landscape for wood and salvage scrap metal to act as filler. Millions of farmers were taken from the plow to smelt steel. Chinese food production plunged, and between 1958 and 1961, 20 to 40 million Chinese died of starvation. Mao, disgraced by the failure, resigned as state chairman in 1959. Simultaneously, relations between China and the Soviet Union ended, caused by Mao's attacks on the Soviet premier Nikita Khrushchev. Mao's prestige in the Chinese Communist Party crumbled, and China sunk into deep isolationism. Mao began planning a new revolution that would resurrect his fallen glory. In the early 1960s, Mao prepared for the Cultural Revolution. Through tactical accusations and firings, he succeeded in stocking the Chinese government with his supporters, including Jiang Qing and Lin Bao, who had become the directors of the revolutionaries. On May 16, 1966, Mao initiated the revolution. The Chinese Communist Party released 6 documents regarding Beijing officials Peng Zhen, Liu Ruoqing, Liu Dingyai, and Yang Shangkun. The documents claimed that these men represented anti-communist influences that had infiltrated the party. The documents then called for the proletariat to rise and eliminate these influences in a people's revolution. Government workers invaded schools, posting Cultural Revolution propaganda, which whipped the nation's students into frenzy. On May 29th, the first Red Guard was formed at the Tsinghua High School, and similar teenage organizations appeared. On June 13th, all schools were suspended to allow students to devote more time to the Cultural Revolution. The Red Guard ruthlessly persecuted anyone suspected to not harbor strictly Maoist beliefs. Those targeted were torn from their homes, denounced, humiliated, and tortured. 1,772 accused were murdered, and more committed suicide to escape the Red Guard's wrath. Revolution was not a dinner party. On August 8, 1966, the Communist Party Central Committee published the 16 Points. Under this declaration, all citizens of China were granted 16 rights that allowed uninhibited purging of non-Maoists, lifting the revolution beyond a student's affair and encouraging all citizens to become involved. The 16 points also called for the destruction of the four olds: old customs, old habits, old culture, and old ideas. Consequently, the Red Guard expanded their effort and destroyed all that suggested the past, including art, architecture, and artifacts. Revolution was not a dinner party. The Cultural Revolution raged into 1967. On January 3rd, Jiang Qing and Lin Biao employed local media to incite the January Storm, in which multiple Shanghai officials were purged. Mao Zedong praised the January Storm and insisted that all local governments be equally scrutinized. In the resulting mass purges, many local governments ceased functioning. By fall 1967, the upheaval had obliterated the Chinese economy. To save the country, on September 5, 1967, Mao ordered the People's Liberation Army to restore order. Red Guard organizations were suppressed, and members ordered to return to school. Although the open violence was stifled, political instability would continue for a decade. In April 1969, the Ninth Party Congress met to rebuild China and sought to revitalize Maoism as China's anchor. A new Maoist-centered constitution was drafted, and Lin Biao was named party vice chairman. Lin sought to restore the government position of state president to assure his secession of Mao. Mao objected, and a chasm descended between the two. Radical supporters of Lin planned a coup, and on September 8th and September 10th made two assassination attempts on Mao. Lin was promptly targeted, and on September 13th fled China on a plane, which crashed in Mongolia, killing every passenger on board. In the aftermath of Lin's death, Wang Hongwen became party vice chairman, and Jiang Qing became the Maoist sole leader. Jiang allied herself with Wang Hongwen and the propaganda specialists Zhang Chengkao and Yao Wenyan. Together they became known as the Gang of Four. Through propaganda, they focused attacks on the politicians Zhou Enlai and Deng Xiaoping, whose presence threatened Jiang's power. After Zhou died on January 8, 1976, the Four struggled to discredit Zhu's past, but failed, and China mourned. Deng applauded this grief, and on April 7, 1976, was stripped of all his power. On September 9, 1976, Mao Zedong died. His successor, Hua Guofeng, was neither an ally of the Gang of Four nor Deng, but on October 10th unexpectedly arrested and imprisoned the Gang of Four. Hua was unable to govern the party alone, and requested Deng to return as party vice chairman. Maoism had driven the Cultural Revolution, and in reaction, anti-Maoism infected the Chinese Communist Party. The anti-Maoists championed economic and political reform. U.S. President Richard Nixon's 1972 visit to China and the subsequent emergence of China from isolationism marked the beginning of Maoism's death. On December 18, 1978, at the third plenum of the 11th Party Congress, Deng Xiaoping urged the party to enact reforms and eradicate the lingering influences of Maoism. The Congress obeyed, beginning a colossal economic burst and extinguishing widespread Maoism forever. In the early years of the People's Republic of China, Mao Zedong initiated extensive economic projects which ended in the death of tens of millions, crushing Mao's prestige in the Chinese Communist Party. To regain his lost reputation, Mao began planning the Cultural Revolution, intending to eradicate his opposition and solidify his power. When set in action, the revolution collapsed into chaos, annihilating the Chinese economy. The Communist Party of China reacted with anti-Maoism, seeking to end the political regime that had led the upheaval. To smash the grip of Maoism, the party enacted economic reforms, leading to an enormous explosion of economic growth. The Cultural Revolution was not a dinner party.